Next, we got ordinance number 23-507, an ordinance to the City of Churchill, Tennessee, repealing and replacing the City of Churchill personnel policy. Mr. Ryan.
The personnel policy was somewhat antiquated, the old existing personnel policy. And it contained some provisions that were hindering operation of several of our departments, and that being the FMLA, Family Medical Leave Act. The FMLA was promulgated by the federal government to give employees time off, in some instances with pay and others without pay, for family medical emergencies. And the federal government requires employers of more than 100 employees to make this available to their employees. Churchill does not have enough employees. And in certain situations, Chief Mosley can verify that it caused hardships within the police department. You can't have someone out under FMLA leaving an already short staff shorter. You can't replace them if they're on FMLA. So one of the objects of the revision of the personnel policy was to eliminate Family Medical Leave Act. We've gone to standard provisions that other employers of less, in the state of Tennessee, I believe it's less than 50 employees. We're still under that threshold. We brought in Betsy Cunningham from MTAS. She met with all of us in a workshop, and everyone, you had to miss that. You had to miss that session. We had an opportunity to talk to her about reasons for suggested changes. We've made grammatical corrections, index corrections, and you all have been distributed by email. Mr. Grigsby, I think you've gotten a hard copy of the new proposed personnel manual. I can't vote, but I can make motions. So as the city attorney, I move, for purposes of getting this on the floor for discussion, that we adopt the new revised personnel manual that you have been provided, and I'm open to any questions. I suggest maybe we can have a roundtable discussion here. There's nothing surreptitious about what we've recommended. We're just updating something that was 20 years old for current application in the city of Churchill. We've added Luke's not here. We've added a job classification for the fire chief that did not exist, and I worked that out with Luke Wood, and he accepted the job description that we've put forth. We've realigned some jobs so that we reinforce the public safety concept that this city adopted 25 years ago. All public employees are public safety officers. And we have police officers that patrol our streets and enforce our laws and the laws of the state of Tennessee. But for fire prevention purposes, we're not at the stage where we can fully fund a manned fire department. So I think everything's there in order, and if you have questions, fire away. I may not be able to answer them, but between me and Betsy Cunningham, we can get you answers for these. So that's my motion, that we repeal and revise and adopt the recommended revised personnel manual.
So we need a second on that?
Yes, we will.
I'll second.
Okay.
I think it makes very clear that it was this format and receiving this manual and the policies was more than clear. I mean, you know, the notes back and forth between you and her, and we were able to input on that. I mean, you know, it was things that were, like you said, I mean, they were way out of date, needed to be fixed, needed to be updated, and so it's, I think it's well timed that we do this.
So you would recommend adopting this?
Yes, I do. I think it's a good step. And it's been revised. The old personnel manual has been revised. It's not something that's set in stone and can't be fixed along the way. But it's what we need in place to manage the workforce and carry the city forward, hopefully, for another 20, 25 years.
Well, you know, you and I have had several conversations over the last month or so over this,
What we have.
not just one a day, sometimes several.
Yeah, we have.
And I know you discussed with the alderman and,
Yep.
this is way past you. The only thing I've seen in the past where we failed as a city is if we change something, we just gotta put something in place to make sure we make that change in the personnel policy.
Yes. And there were a few changes that had been made that were, that referred to the wrong appendix, and I think now everything's in order. And there's an index that leads you to the right, section. My wife Allison helped me, and I thank her immensely for that, help get all this, put together for us.
And it's in digital, searchable format.
Yes, it is.
So, if I may ask, your recommendation, if the board adopts this, then we could go to the printers and get this printed.
Well, it requires two readings.
I know,
It's an ordinance, and so we can after second reading if it passes on second.
And how is our legal attorney, because this is a document on behalf of the city, how would you recommend us doing that?
Well, I think there's a signature page for every employee. I think every employee needs to be handed the personnel manual. They need to sign it and accept it if they want to continue working for the city. It's a condition of employment. So if they're not comfortable with the provisions in it, then I think they probably need to look at the security of their job. There's provisions for drug testing. That's for the protection of the city, for the protection of co-workers, and all of you all, individually and collectively. So I think there's some reviews that haven't been being made, supervisory reviews that in good business practice should be being continually made. You need to evaluate the employees that are working every year. Take time out of your schedule to do that. That's part of your supervisory duties. And keep everybody's personnel files up to date. We're getting rid of some old material as a result of this. I think we've been keeping job applications for how long? Forever.
Probably 4 or 5 years.
This will require them to be kept for a year. After that, they're destroyed. We don't need them anymore. I think it's just good business practice to have a written format to go by. And everybody
Well,
follows.
it protects the employee too.
Yeah, it does. It certainly does.
It's a two-way street.
Yeah, oh yes, there are harassment provisions in there that protect employees, against harassment, sexual or otherwise.
I just want to say thank you for doing this.
Well,
I know this was a lot of work on your behalf, and BMA and employees too, some employees.
oh yeah.
But I think it does twofold. It protects the employees and it protects the city, and there's nothing wrong with that.
We had, staff here in the office complete the job questionnaire so we could add a little flesh to their job descriptions.
And we've got a couple of locations, other locations, we're gonna do that as we speak.
Okay. I think she has a question.
I just had I just wondered if everybody looked over the job descriptions closely. I know when you had the workshop, I had asked to, take a look at the 3 administrative positions. I just have a couple questions. I just want to bring them up. You don't have to say yes or no if you agree. But for the one, the general tax clerk, receptionist, Title VI coordinator, 61 for that one, for the tax clerk. Under essential functions of the job, she takes in the majority of the money for the city, the majority of the cash, and it's also on here that she makes bank deposits. We frown upon, I would frown upon that, just by things that have happened in the past. I would think that's too much handling of cash in hand. Just something for you to think about. And then on page 59, for the senior account clerk bookkeeper, the essential functions of the job. Again, with what's been going on in the past, that person maintains payroll, accounts payables, accounts receivables, and then reconciles your bank statements. You take in some receivable loads for all the, for all the statements and invoices that come in, so you're receiving those in order to.
I don't touch.
But it says here, maintains accounts receivable. I'm saying, look at that, that's a lot of control over monies. If one person's doing payroll, accounts payable, accounts receivable, and bank reconciliation. That's just a lot of control over money. That's what, if you wanna kind of take a look at that,
Well,
that's right.
by way of explanation, maintains accounts receivable doesn't mean that she receives money. She just keeps the receivable account records.
But she's doing, again, payroll, accounts payable, and then the bank reconciliation. If you agree that that's what one person should be doing, that's fine. I'm just saying, I personally think it's too much control over the financial records.
Okay, on your first question you asked, I had a meeting, I think you were off that day, and I emphasized again, from the comptroller's office, and I made it clear, did I not, Vicki?
Yes.
You can't take money and go deposit it. That's a no-no. Can't do it. So I reckon that is stopped, right, Vicki?
Yes. I'm the one making it.
So in the job descriptions, what changes do we need to make in those job descriptions to rectify that problem?
So the general tax clerk, receptionist, should not make bank deposits. Now,
I do.
the senior account clerk should, just because the city recorder has a dual position who always takes in money as well. Because as a court recorder, as a court clerk, I take in money for tickets, and so on some days that can be a very high dollar amount as well, which the city recorder can on every once in a while take money to the bank. But again, I think that the one who doesn't touch any cash should be
That would be me.
taking
So
the bank deposits. And this is also through MTAS that I've asked about some of these questions too, who helps with our,
tell us what we need to do then to correct the error that's in the job description. What do we need to add to another job description to
well,
fix that?
for the bank deposits, we should probably take that away from the tax clerk and give it to the senior account clerk.
Do you want me to do that literally here, or do we?
I mean, you'll all have to
that.
agree on
We'll
it.
just correct it, we'll correct it for the next meeting.
I'm just saying.
I can do that.
It's done, the first question she's asked is done and corrected, but we need it in writing.
Okay.
So if we add bank deposits to senior clerk, does that fix the problem?
That fixes that problem, yeah,
Okay,
yes.
And just for the record, I agree. Accountability is a big thing. If you have one person that takes the money, writes the receipts, makes the deposits, then there's no accountability there.
Right.
So for the record, I agree.
Are you gonna make these corrections, Chris?
yes, so that will go to senior account clerk. All right, you got something else? Go ahead.
And so, I mean, am I wrong to think that someone who does payroll and writes all the checks to our vendors, does all the accounts payable, would also do the bank reconciliation?
You're doing the bank receipt.
Right now, the city recorder is doing bank reconciliations, but in these new job descriptions, it's now going over to the senior account clerk to do that as well. And along with doing other billing. It's just, I think it's a lot of financials, too much financial on. But I could be wrong too, I'm just bringing it up to look at.
So-
That's how it was done prior to Stacy and myself. Patsy Youngway, Vicky Skelton, they were the ones who done the bank reconciliations previously.
What are you doing, Kimberly?
I was doing the bank reconciliation.
You're doing
I was
it
learning
now?
how to do that this
So-
past couple of weeks, yes.
So you're saying it should fall to Vicky's desk?
I'm
You
saying
said it should fall to the reporter.
I believe the city recorder should be the one that
I
does the
agree.
bank
I
reconciliation.
agree.
And I talked with Travis at MTS,
And he felt the same way.
who has been a city recorder, and he agrees with that. But again, it's up to you guys as a board. I just wanna make sure,
No, I think you're right.
I'm personally just in it just for, checks and balances.
That's what we want.
I hate what's been going on in the city, and I know I've only been here a year, but I'm just here to help and keep things balanced and correct if possible.
So could you make that change, Chris?
Sure, I can, easily.
Is that all you had, Kimberly?
Yeah.
I might have to tell the board that Kimberly's passed all of her tests for
So far,
so far, which is good.
halfway through.
I'd like to ask one more question just for clarification on page 17, L3, on working holidays. Do we ever work a part-time employee on a holiday?
Well, I'm sure we do with police occasionally, don't we?
Occasionally I do.
Okay, other than the police?
No, we have some employees,
Recently, yes.
whether it be called out for snow or,
Are they paid straight time or are they paid overtime?
Straight time.
huh?
Part-time will play straight time.
They're paid state time, but they still get their holiday pay too.
Okay.
So, if you're a 12-hour shift, you get paid that 12 hours, or you get paid 8 hours for the holiday, correct?
All full-time employees, part-time don't receive that benefit.
Right.
Part-time employees are not paid for holidays.
Do what?
Part-time employees are not paid for holidays.
Oh,
So
okay.
if you came in to work on a holiday, you're working for straight time.
Yeah.
We probably have several, you were asking because fitness centers open on some working holidays, so they're not considered full-time. We have, 3 or 4 part-time employees that work at the fitness center.
And some of those employees might work one day a month, or one day a week. We've got several who works one day a week. We've got only full-time get holiday pay. And that's been brought up before, but if my memory serves right, the reason it was brought up, that if you pay the part-time a holiday pay, they're getting a benefit that a full-time employee.
When we're talking holidays, are we talking about the ones that we adopt as a city as paid holidays?
Yeah.
So why, we close all facilities on those days, right?
Correct.
It's not closed.
We don't close the fitness center, on some we do, like Christmas and stuff like that, but we don't,
So the fitness center or the police department would be the only two departments that are open.
right, anybody gets called out on a holiday is a full-time employee. Of course, I'm sure they has been part-time coming to pass, I can't, you can't keep up with that, but. Yeah. That ain't you, question.
I just wanted clarification.
Mayor, I would, move to modify the personnel manual to make those corrections. And my motion would be to move these responsibilities. Move the responsibility for making bank deposits from the general tax clerk to the senior account clerk. And move the responsibility for making bank reconciliation to the city recorder.
So that is your motion?
That's my amendment to the motion, and you would need a second to that.
And I second that.
Motion to repeal, amend, or repeal and adopt.
Oh, you gonna make that motion?
I already have, it's on the floor.
Okay, and I second it, right?
Yes.
Discussion? Call roll, please.
Kathy Burchett,
Yes.
Keith Gibson,
Yes.
James Grigsby,
Yes.
Ken Buster,
Yes.
Bud Tipton,
Yes.
Michael Walker,
Yes.
Dennis Hill.
Aye.
Thank you all.
And again, we greatly appreciate the work and time you put into this. And please don't send us a bill.